Certainly not a match-winning lead.
Hudson, Schneider, Desha, an unlikely goal scorer. He puts them in front.
3 goals in 5 minutes late in the last term saw St Kilda snatch an improbable win against the Bulldogs. A 3-point win in a low-scoring, uninspiring and at times ugly defensive clash. For Ross Lyon, a win is a win. Melbourne's 3-win run came to an end against North.
Loads up from 50, it's got the carry, it's got the distance.
But a 6-goal third-quarter burst, 3 from Brad Green, gave the faithful something to think about.
A good grab from Jamer.
And Port kicked 6 final quarter goals as they came from behind to defeat Adelaide in Showdown 27.
Well, it doesn't matter how you do it, it works.
With 6 straight losses, Neil Cray's Crows were looking at their worst start to an AFL season.
Oh no, there's a spoon being held up.
Spoon's up.
Oh no.
Hawthorn too off to a shocker, with Essendon contributing to their 5th defeat in 6 rounds. Henry Slattery was nabbed for rushing a behind, and while Matthew Knights was seething, umpire Scott McLaren would end up having a week on the sidelines.
This is the first time a decision's been paid for this year, and unfortunately was processed incorrectly.
While Buddy Franklin might have kicked 5, the Hawks were held goalless in the last term as the Bombers piled on the pain.
Floodgates are showing signs of opening here, and the Bombers are well and truly home.
One of the kicks of the season, the barrel from the boundary line, and Daniel Bradshaw put a nail in the coffin when Sydney torpedoed his old side, Brisbane.
A monster!
Turn it up.
He'd finished with 6.
That is perfection.
The awesome firepower of the reigning premiers was on full show as James Podsiadly, Cameron Mooney and Stevie Johnson each kicked 5 in a 108-point drubbing of Richmond.
They can start playing Sweet Georgie Brown here. It's party time.
Traditional rivals Collingwood and Carlton took to the MCG, and 80,000 marvelled at the skills of this Magpie side. A 7-goal second quarter saw some freakish performances.
Gun barrels went.
A 6th straight derby win at Subiaco for Fremantle. Pavlich with 5, and the Dockers coasted home with a 7-goal final quarter.
Roger Hayden from the back pocket seals the goal.
Michael Barlow impressing again, taking home the Ross Glendinning medal for best of field. Amazingly, Michael Barlow, the mature-age rookie who'd burst onto the scene at Fremantle with little fanfare, was the hottest player in the competition after 6 rounds, and a bloke at Geelong named Podsiadly was grabbing his chance after a 10-year wait. We're back with more of 2010 as the AFL Winners relives a remarkable season after the break. Round 7 opened with the Field of Women event, the MCG awash in pink in support of those affected by breast cancer. A classic encounter, Tom Scully terrific in just his 7th match, but the Dogs lasted the distance, coming from 9 points down to get home by 4 points.
Griffin snaps. He's put it through.
21 points down in the third quarter, Port Adelaide surged home to beat Essendon by 3 points at Etihad Stadium. It was Port's 12th win in 13 meetings against the Bombers.
He is pumped. They have absolutely done it to Essendon again.
6 losses in 7 games and 11 in their last 13 demonstrated exactly how far the 2008 premiers Hawthorn had fallen. Josh Kennedy was in sparkling form for West Coast, kicking 6, while Dean Cox and Nick Natanui exposed the Hawks' lack of ruck power. For the second week in a row, Collingwood topped 150 points, this time North on the end of an 11-goal hammering. Dane Swan, with 38 possessions, ensured that Mick Malthouse's 350th win as a coach was one to remember. Fremantle weathered a final quarter fight back to win their first match at the Gabba in 15 years. The Dockers 6-1 and travelling beautifully. Sydney suffered its worst defeat in 6 seasons, losing to Geelong by 67 points. Podsiadly continuing his dream season with 5.
5 goals to the J-Pod.
For Richmond or Adelaide, their winless season had to come to an end, and early in the last quarter at Amy Stadium, it was still a toss-up. The Crows would prevail, kicking away to win by an improbable 50 points. The game's most talked about player would be a guest on the couch.
I'm also proud of the way that I've worked through some adversity and had to do it in the public eye. It hasn't always been easy.
And after 9 years, Carlton broke through and upset St Kilda as the round finished with Monday Night Football. Those small Carlton forwards, led by Eddie Betts, who kicked 5, would help the Blues to a season-defining 10-goal win. It was the Saints' worst loss under Ross Lyon. Designated Umpire Appreciation Round by the AFL, Round 8 began in Perth with more than 41,000 at Subiaco to see the hotshot Dockers take on Collingwood. With Cloak kicking 5 and 13 Magpies joining in the goal fest, the Dockers would go down by 36 points.
It's a goal! He's kicked 2 in a minute.
The Swans greeted former captain and now opponent Barry Hall in Canberra, and the new dog kicked 5 goals to take his Western Bulldogs to a convincing win at Manuka Oval. Melbourne coach Dean Bailey accused his men of playing boring football as they were kept to 1 goal after half-time by West Coast. Eagles coach John Worsfold immediately suggested his men were up for September action.
I would love to play in the finals and would obviously hope we could win enough games to play in the finals.
Brendan Favola kicked his 600th career goal against Geelong, but it was the Brisbane forward's only goal on a night to forget. The Cats were ruthless. Stevie Johnson kicked 6, and with Selwood, Ablett and Chapman on fire, they cruised to an 81-point win. Then there were 3 games hanging in the balance at three-quarter time. 9 goals down, Adelaide produced one of the most stunning turnarounds of 2010 against North at Etihad Stadium. The Crows would kick 7 final quarter goals to 0 and come within 9 points of a record-breaking upset. Hawthorn too had to survive a nail-biting last quarter as Richmond surged. Inspired by Jack Riewoldt, the Tigers closed to 3 points.
Holding the ball, a game-saving tackle from the captain.
And Carlton came from 17 points down to win by 26 against the hapless Port Adelaide at Amy Stadium.
And Chris Judd almost like a litmus test for this team. When it needed to be done, he did it. He finishes with 27 possessions.
And to end the round, one of the great upsets. The topsy-turvy form of Essendon hit a high when it defeated St Kilda, David Hill kicking 4. Friday night footy at 88,000 at the MCG sensed this might be the match of the season. The ladder leaders Collingwood against the reigning champs. It wouldn't be. The Magpies' attack, which had seen 13 separate goal kickers for 3 rounds in a row, fizzled out. This night they'd only have 3 and none in the last quarter as they faced surge after surge from the rampant Cats.
Turns his man inside out and then leans back, and that's going to be very sweet.
And while Geelong took over top spot, the question on everyone's lips was still about Gary Ablett and his future.
Look, if he stays, he stays. We desperately want him to stay, but in the end, we don't have any control over that. Gary's got to make a decision at some stage.
Hawthorn had a record 155 interchanges against Carlton, but that didn't worry Buddy Franklin. He'd boot 5 in a 50-point drubbing, and the Hawks were on the rebound. Dean Bailey won his first match away from the MCG, and it couldn't have been further away, with Miller kicking 5 on a balmy night in Darwin. The Demons had to withstand an 8-goal final quarter surge from Port Adelaide before snatching a 1-point thriller.
What a courageous win by this team on a fantastic final quarter of footy.
Nathan Bock shut down Jonathan Brown when the Lions travelled to Amy, but the Crows had no answer for the magic of Favola.
Goes back in. He's tipped that.
A 5-goal haul from Fev would not be enough, however, the Crows getting their 2nd win for the season. While Nick Riewoldt was an onlooker, St Kilda had no trouble defeating the Eagles.
And Del Santo, the finisher from 50, that's just lovely, isn't it?
That's brilliant.
But the other Riewoldt was all the rage when the Tigers met Essendon.
So Riewoldt plays on and kicks a ripping goal. Well done.
He'd kicked 6, but it wouldn't be enough. The Bombers getting back-to-back wins for the first time in 2010. Fremantle's hoodoo-breaking season continued when Matthew Pavlich and Paul Hazelby led the Dockers to their first win at the SCG for 11 years. At Etihad, drama surrounded Barry Hall as Rue Scott Thompson got a little under his skin. When order was restored, the Dogs stormed to their best win of the season, giving North a 70-point hiding. Josh Hill, the star, with 4 goals. 9 rounds in, and the first of the big 2010 retirements began with Simon Goodwin hanging up the boots, as well as Tyson Edwards, who initially retired immediately but was given a farewell game when the club backflipped due to some supporter pressure. To round 10 though, and with Jason Ackermanis hitting the headlines again, it wasn't quite the preparation Rodney Eade had hoped for as the Dogs took to the field against Essendon at Etihad Stadium. With his career spiralling out of control, Ackermanis would make little contribution and the Bombers would survive a final quarter blitz to win by 9 points.
And that's it. The Bombers win big on Friday night footy.
After 9 straight losses in 2010, there was victory at last for Richmond.
Party time!
Port kept to only 3 goals at home and finally a chance for Damien Hardwick and his boys to burst into song. In game number 250, Luke Powell was best of field as Brisbane stunned Collingwood at the Gabba. Brown and Favola would each kick 4. Melbourne travelled down the highway for mission impossible against Geelong. The Cats home by 9 goals, including another 5-goal haul from James Hodsey-Ardley. The Saints made it 21 Saturday night victories in a row at Etihad Stadium. Tight all night, a 7-goal-to-1 final quarter left Adelaide looking second-rate. Lee Montagna outstanding with 38 touches and 5 goals.
Montagna starting to blaze of glory, might finish in one.
Buddy got himself into trouble when he made high contact with Marty Matner. The Hawks would beat Sydney by 2 points, Reece Shaw missing a chance to snatch an improbable win.
Had more time.
Scores a level.
Kepler-Bradley has had a tough time since joining the Dockers, but against North he excelled. His 4 goals a major contribution to a 10-goal win at Subiaco. And the stats champ of the round, surely Bryce Gibbs. His 45 possessions equalled Greg Williams' best at Carlton and propelled the Blues to a 5-goal win over the Eagles. Jack Riewoldt was doing it all, taking screamers
Magnificent Mark Riewoldt.
and kicking goals, 6 of them in fact, but it wouldn't be enough for Richmond to blunt St Kilda, even with cousin Nick sidelined. A 7-goal first quarter by Carlton was too slick for Melbourne to pick back at the MCG. Despite a valiant effort in the third, the Blues home by 41 points. Tyson Edwards called it a day against the Dockers and went out with a bang. 32 possessions and a couple of goals, bringing the curtain down on a 321-game career in winning style. Just over 19,000 saw the closest match of the round, with North managing to conquer a Brisbane side that had Favola kicking 5 and Brown 3. In the end, the Roos would scrape in by a point.
It's a wobbler. It wobbled through. In your dreams.
The Eagles fought valiantly against Geelong at Subiaco. Paul Chapman leading the charge as the Cats maintained a 1-game lead at the top of the ladder. And it was a former Cat who was leading the way for Sydney. Shane Mumford had 46 hitouts against a talented Essendon duo of Hill and Ryder and helped his side to a 9-point win in a game that boasted 20 lead changes. 4 in a row to Hawthorn. This one partly due to Port Adelaide's woeful kicking. 2-10 at half-time. The Power managed 8 goals from 23 scoring shots. Early in the last quarter, Collingwood led the Bulldogs by 43 points and then watched as the lead was eroded away. 6 final quarter goals would take Eade's men to within 10 points, the Pies notching up their 8th win for the season. The surface was the sticking point. Sean Higgins, the latest victim on the shifting Etihad turf.